Welcome back to Left Unattended. This podcast exists to normalize the real stories of neurodivergence in the workplace. Not just the inspirational highlight reels and not just the struggle, but the full human reality of what it means to move through professional spaces with a brain that doesn't always fit the system around it. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Amanda Wilson, an orthodontist, dental consultant, advisor, educator, and founder of Straight Smile Solutions. Amanda describes herself as not at all a traditional orthodontist, which I love. And that makes her story such a powerful one for the show. She has built a massive educational platform, navigated high growth professional spaces, and uses her neurodivergent strengths in pattern recognition, spatial thinking, teaching, and entrepreneurship in ways that have shaped her career. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. Aloha from Hawaii.
Oh, right. I'm so jealous when you told me that you're in Hawaii.
Don't be too jealous because right now there are many chickens outside and I'm just hoping it won't make noise. And it's really hot.
Well, yeah, I can imagine. I think we hit 90s here this week in South Carolina.
Yeah, it's hot, but our AC is so expensive. So I'm trying not to run it during the podcast because it's noisy. So if I start sweating, you guys know what's going on.
So you describe yourself as an orthodontist, but not as a traditional one. What does that mean in the context of how your brain works? I'm curious.
Sure. So traditional orthodontist is one that goes into the office, sees 50, 70, 80, 90, 100 patients a day, does this on repeat. I used to do 80 to 100 a day. It was a lot. Exhausting. Fun though. And if you're ADHD, by the way, it's fun. But about 10, 12 years ago, I just started getting really burnt out. And honestly, y'all, I did not know I was neurodivergent until this last year. Matter of fact, I was only diagnosed last September 2025. And I was only diagnosed because I wanted answers to a few things. So I think I just was struggling. I'd go to practice and I was a great orthodontist, don't get me wrong. And so if there's any of my old patients that see me on there, I think I did a great job. I don't think I'm in any trouble or anything. I felt like I was giving it all at work in order to give it all. And I was doing a great job. But when I came home, I was just falling apart. And I did have little kids at home and a spouse and, family nearby and everything. And it was just really, really hard to be able to give it all to everybody. And I just didn't feel like my life is what I wanted to be. So I decided I needed to make a change.
Yeah, I feel like that's an all too familiar story, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'd say VetMed, now it's a little bit different. In veterinary medicine, we have patients and clients who are different, right? But like we
That's
get all
true. You've got the animals and I never thought about that. Oh no, that you have to deal with two things. Yikes.
Yeah. So we give like all of ourselves to our team, maybe our boss, maybe the team below us and the clients and the patients, and you give and give and give of yourself. And then you realize that there's nothing left when you come home at the end of the day. I was a terrible father at some point and probably a terrible husband when I would come home and I just have nothing left in the tank.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Oh my gosh. I literally said the exact same thing. You just quoted me. Yeah. Come on. It's not that I was a bad person. I just was so exhausted and I didn't know why. And my husband would say why are you so tired? Did you not eat? Did you not sleep last night? No, I slept last night. It wasn't the running around or the orthodontics that was exhausting. It was the conversations that would go on every single time. And when you're doing 80, 90 patients a day, that's 80, 90. If it's a kid, it's 80, 90 of them plus 80, 90 of their parents you're talking to on top of, all the staff and all the interactions. And I always thought I was an extrovert because I'm very good with people. I'm exceptional with people. You take me to a party, I'm the life of the party. I'll talk to whoever about anyone, anything, most of the time until my gas tank depletes. And I now feel more of an aura when the gas tank depletes. I know it's coming. Before, I didn't know. So it would just come. And then all of a sudden I was done and I got to leave the party. But that doesn't work when you're working with patients. When you're done, you don't get to leave. That's patient abandonment. So maybe one thing if it's a dog, but if it's a human, that's a heck no. You can't abandon that patient. You got to finish your procedure. So, you could work less and that's fine. But the problem is, and I'm sure it's the same in veterinary, these student loans are predatory that they have us take out. And I'm thankful, and I'm not going to get into politics, but I'm thankful that at least there'll be a cap on that for a lot of professions because there's a lot of us out there with $500,000, $1 million in student loans who just don't know how we're going to get that paid off,
Yeah, so true.
Mm-hmm.
So I heard you say that you got your diagnosis last year. Is that
yes,
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what changed for you when you started to understand what flavor of neurodivergence, if you will?
I didn't know what my flavor was. So I'll be really honest. I'm sure you know this. Listen, like there's very little out there on adult neurodivergence, adult autism, adult ADHD. My differential diagnosis was that I had ADHD or ADHD, which is a combination of both with some other stuff sprinkled in. That really wasn't what was on the diagnosis paper. But to be honest, the psychologist and the psychiatrist who worked with it were like, this for a female too, they're like, you're just not dorky enough. You have managed to learn to code switch enough that you don't even know who you are. They're like, you have a fun version of you, but who are you underneath? And I was like, you're right. That's really not me, this fun version that you're seeing. But I've taught myself to be fun. So I am fun, but awkward fun. But in any case, yeah, I found out last year. Why did I do it? I knew something was up. And I was like, something's up with me. This is my suspicion. Every doctor I went to said, no, you're fine. Nope, you're fine. You don't need testing. You know, my family, you're too smart. You're fine. You're paying your bills. You're a great mom, you know. But I was every night, like literally, I'll tell you the truth. Like, every night I wasn't able to sleep. That was what was starting to happen. It would eat at me so much. And I'd be so dysregulated from just making through the day and doing everything I needed to do. And no one saw me falling apart, that I couldn't rest at night, you know? And it was just years and years and years of that. And I said, that's it. I got to start. I either got to work less, do less, you know, take a lot off my plate, or I got to start advocating for myself and putting up boundaries. And that was the first step to get answers.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but there was almost a lot of masking at home too, where it's like, I can't put more on my family, right?
Right.
I can't put more on my spouse because
Yeah.
I've already, I don't like, my spouse is my executive function in a lot of ways. Like, he's an amazing human being. He does all the bills. He schedules all the appointments. Now I show up at them. But like, he really is the executive functioning of our house. And so without him, I don't know how I would survive.
Well, see, I was the executive function of our house. I'm not going to diagnose anyone else in the household. It's not my business. So, but I was that person. There's some of us who have ADHD, especially females, were the executive function for their house growing up. You know, usually this is autosomal dominant. So if there's one kid who has it, everyone else probably has a form of it. And someone has to be an executive function person. And somehow that ended up to be me, which is probably, it shouldn't have been me. So I got really good at it. But then you're a dude, so you don't know this as much, but there's something called perimenopause and women go through all this hormone stuff. No one told me that my executive function skills were going to go away when I got in my 40s suddenly. And the executive function skills that made me who I am, that made me the wife I am, the mom I am, the parent to all the kids in the athletic department. And I started forgetting things, like not being able to do things as well, and then really slipping. It wasn't affecting my work, don't get me wrong. It was just bugging me that I was making little mistakes. That was never something I used to do. So I was like, that's it. I better not have dementia, which I don't, thank goodness, or a brain tumor. That was my two other differential diagnoses. I'll take ADHD over dementia or a brain tumor, no problem.
I know I'm a guy, but I definitely want to make sure that I talk on the female experience on that, because in veterinary medicine, particularly, it is female dominated, and therefore, I always make sure that I include that piece of the female experience, right? There's not enough data there. We're based off of 5-year-old, 3-year-old boys for a lot of the them. And you're, to your point, 100% right. From what I have researched and learned is women often get a proper diagnosis either after they've had a child and they go to the doctors for their child and say, my child's struggling. And like, oh, by the way, I struggle with the exact same thing. And I didn't realize. Or perimenopause hits, and like I say, all scaffolding and all of the coping mechanisms just kind of fall apart.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, are there, like, I heard you say that like you were the life of the party, and that was one of the masks that you wore. Do you find yourself wearing some of those masks in the workplace, or where did you identify that mask in the workplace?
Well, actually, I switched when I started getting away from in-person, and started launching my own business and consulting and product development. It's just me working at home, sometimes traveling. So the only time I'm actually with people in the workplace are when I travel, which I don't do a ton because I live in Hawaii and it's very expensive. So if I do, it's like a massive, like I'm going to this dental convention and then maybe I'm going to visit my son and then maybe I'm doing something else. So it's fine. I've just learned now that if I'm going to have one really social day, like a party or something big or a convention or a lecture, CE course, then I'm going to need 1 or 2 or 3 days of just me. Afterwards, like I'm not hanging out with other people. And as long as I build my schedule like that, it's actually been fine. Those are just part of the boundaries that I figured out. And I just don't let people pressure me to do stuff. Then that's why I had to find out, because if I don't have this answer as to why I can't do things, then I can't advocate for myself.
Yeah, my magic number is 3. I do a lot of speaking at conferences. And so I am not the life of the party, but I am in it and I'm immersed in it and I am like with the people and I completely like use up all the juice and I need 3 days recovery from a conference.
Oh, you're the same thing. I thought I made that up. Oh, I feel so, I mean, you guys, I have zero guidance on what I'm doing right now, except for podcasts. I mean, and occasionally I meet someone. Oh, that's so cool. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's real because I tried, I'll just take 1 day off and get back to work. I'll try 2 days off. And every once in a while, I don't need a day off. I'm just flying 1 day in and 1 day out, right? And no, I need 3 full days of just like, I'm probably flat out on the couch. Do not talk to me. Yep. I have nothing. I am not here mentally.
Oh, well, you're so lucky your spouse is supportive. I'm not saying mine's not. I think mine just still doesn't understand. So, but then again, he's a boomer. He's older than me. So he's literally a boomer. So
I know there's 13 older than me, but
yeah.
Gen X. That's awesome.
That's right. We're not going to try to change the boomers. So if this type of stuff didn't exist in their day, even though we might have a collection of 5,000 things in our room, then sorry. My daughter was like, do not out anyone in our family about anything. And I was like, yeah, I have no filter. So I'm going to make a few jokes. It's not going to be outing. It's just going to be comments. So
I had this controversial thought. I'm just going to say it today.
Go for it.
So I was thinking about like, I get a lot of those generational comments at conferences, like, why can't the younger generation just deal with it, right? I get a lot of that because I talk with neurodiversity in the workplace. And I just had this crazy thought, and we were talking about how like one person carries the executive functioning in the household. And I'm wondering that, now that we have moved to a society where basically both people in the household have to be income generators, where the baby boomers probably were less like that, right? You had one person staying at home, one person making the money. And so you had your executive function at home.
Yep.
So you didn't have to use a lot of that cognitive processing all of the time. It was partial time, right?
That's a great part. Yeah, it's true. I think of a lot of family, it was always one person was the executive function person, one person was not. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. So I know that like puts a lot of burden on women because that's historically has been the man goes to work and the woman stays home. But it just had me thinking about that as far as like, wow, maybe that's why these burnouts weren't experienced from masking in the workplace earlier in earlier generations.
Oh, I mean, totally. I completely think you're right. Yeah.
How has the way your brain worked been misunderstood or mislabeled in your career? Kind of looking back, I know that you only got your diagnosis last year, but.
So I'm going through this whole, I call it the historical processing. So after you go through a neurodivergent diagnosis, a lot of times you slowly start to, I don't know, my mind, I don't know if this happens to you, but almost every day there'll be like a new memory that I haven't thought about in 10, 20, 30, 40 years. Sometimes it's something very random and it pops up and then I start processing that in a very different way. I'm like, oh, maybe it wasn't that he was mad at me, or maybe I didn't get fired because I was bad or wrong. Maybe I got fired because I made them feel uncomfortable. Either my knowledge or something, or the way, or my lack of, I don't know. I managed to get fired from almost every job I've ever had, even though I was always the best worker. So, and I never understood why. They'd find some random reason to fire me, came in on time, respectful. They would just find some tiny reason to fire me. Sometimes I could cite it and I got money for it, but I think later I always ended up being a 1099, which is independent contractor, so they can fire you at will. But yeah, it never made sense to me. And it was a deep wound because it never made sense to me. I understand if you do something wrong, yeah, okay, you're not productive, you're disrespectful, you do something legitimately wrong, you hurt someone, fine, but never happened. So all of a sudden now that all that anger went away, all that just hurt, thinking am I dumb? That was honestly my question. I'm like, I know I'm not dumb. I actually know I'm not dumb at all, and I know I didn't do anything wrong. And once you realize that you didn't do anything wrong and that's actually their issue, it's let them, this is their problem, and I just said, I just got to start doing things my own way that works for me. The knowledge is there. Listen, I'll go back to orthodontics if I can practice it my way without people treating me badly. Sure, no problem.
Yeah. I interviewed, I'm probably going to reiterate this on a couple podcasts, but because it's so relevant. I interviewed Dr. Jody Wilson, who's a veterinarian, but also an academic researcher out of Australia. And she was talking very much what you're talking about here is how you have these flashbacks of memories. And she was talking about it very beautifully. Like she gets to rewind her life and then rewrite the stories of what happened. Right. And I think that's beautiful that we can go back there and realize like, no, I wasn't being difficult. I was being unsupported.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that was what happened. I remember being an early, like I did consulting before I had all this knowledge of neurodiversity, and I did some consulting, and I just kind of reiterated some of the other consultants where it was like, if you're a poor culture fit, but a high producer, get rid of them fast, right? We want people that fit the culture more than the skill. And I think that's actually really, really harmful and discriminatory in a lot of ways. I know better because I think that people who are high producing, I think they're often misunderstood. And I actually don't think that we should be high producing. I think just like you have a floor for like what is acceptable performance, I think there should be a ceiling. And if somebody's pushing up against that ceiling of production, I think we need to bring them back down. Like, how do we bring them back down? Because I don't think that's sustainable productivity.
You're right. No, I mean, you're right. I mean, every job that I've ever had, I don't only give 100%, I give 100 if there was ability. Like I just keep pushing. How much more can I do? I'm always the top producer, challenges, right? Hey, since you mentioned that, I'm gonna go down another rabbit hole. Have you ever seen the TV show, The Pit?
I have seen season 1 and then they moved it to, I don't know, Peacock.
Yeah, it's on some weird streaming. Actually, when we moved, we lost our regular cable. So I became a cord cutter. So now I actually got to finish watching it. I didn't realize when I started watching it that it actually, I don't know if they intentionally tried to make it a neurodivergent focused medical show, but basically everyone's saying it is. I mean, everyone's got a different, people are saying what everyone's diagnosis is. That has been the greatest show for me to watch. Like I'm going to rewatch season 1 with that in mind. Now that people are giving diagnoses to all the characters. And since it's a medical show, this is so great. And I love the way they're medical students and residents because dude, I had so much trauma in residency. It's not funny. So that was the worst 3 years of my life. And had I known going in, you would have been completely different, right? So it's almost therapeutic for me to watch that TV show, to watch it and see how they're dealing with things, because it was rough.
Well, here's something that might blow your mind. I have done not a little bit of research, probably tiniest bit of research, but I would actually go as far to say that most, if not all, medical shows are at least autistic coded.
Yeah, no, you're not right. I actually, now that I watch them again, and I've actually been like obsessed with them since I was like since ER. I mean, I think that was the first one that came out and I was in college then. Yeah. And maybe that's why I vibe with them so much.
I remember like seeing House and how like he would get praised being out of the box, and like they ignore how awful and terrible he was to people, but because they praised his medicine. There's just so many medical shows looking back, I'm just like, oh, that's so coded for neurodivergent somehow, some way.
Yeah, no, it is totally true. Yeah, totally true.
I think I read in your bio that you have like created more than 3,000 educational videos.
It might be 4,000. It's depending on which, it's too much to count, depending on which Grok chat GPT. One said 4,000, one said 3,000. So I just went with the lower one.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a bit of it's my virtual hoarding. I actually told someone that yesterday. They're like, do you collect stuff? Are you a stuff collector, or are you like a Marie Kondo? I said, definitely a Marie Kondo, because I grew up in the house of stuff collectors. So you can see it's pretty simple around here. But no, I collect YouTube videos. So that's been my virtual hoarding content. I basically like realized I have so much knowledge because literally orthodontics and airway has become my special interest. So I like obsessively read white papers, journal articles, textbooks. I know this stuff backwards and forwards. I'm constantly testing my skills because orthodontics is a puzzle. It is a puzzle of the mouth. It's almost like you could have a flashcard, And so you can do stuff. And I look at cases all day long and I'm like, how would I do this? Boom, boom. Yep, that works. I've gotten really good at it. So I just want to make sure that I think I was worried a couple of years ago and I didn't know what was wrong with me. This is the honest truth. And I don't think I even realized this till today. So you're like my therapy session. I was worried, what if I had a brain tumor, which I don't, but I knew that something was different on me. I don't want to forget all my knowledge, like this is sad. I feel like I need to give my knowledge to people. So I started recording it during COVID so that it was there, and then I was like, oh, I'm fine. Well, let me just finish because people love it. they kept asking for more, and now they take requests. So every single day, Monday through Friday, I make one more video and I post one more video. I've been doing it for years. It's fun.
It's really awesome. I love that. So you had this untraditional path in your orthodontic career, right? Do you, like, looking backwards now, kind of attribute that to how your brain works?
Yeah, totally. I never followed traditional paths. So totally. And by the way, I am so not popular in the orthodontic community. I would say I'm probably the most hated orthodontist. And I'll say this with glory in this country, the United States. Hated. If you mention this to your own, if they know me, they will make a face. Just because I push back, I say the truth. I say if I disagree with things, I say if I think it's abuse, I say, and I think the way the whole orthodontic profession is going is wonky. And I think you could change things and give more access to care for cheaper prices in the United States. So I think autistic thinkers have a bottom-up, I don't think, we know, we have a bottom-up thinking. And when we see defects in a process, we can't be part of that process anymore. We got to vocalize it. Like, I'm out. I'm going to do it my own way because this is just not right the way it's going. And that's why companies like Smile Direct Plug came out and all these other companies that are taking it over. If you guys don't like what's happening, it's because other people are finding venture capitalists are also finding what I'm finding. And they're taking opportunities.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that's the thing that has gotten me labeled like difficult in the workplace before was like, I would point out all the flaws. I wrote something on it last year. It just blew up on social media. Like, I got labeled difficult. I had to move. I was at a veterinary. I only work in veterinary practice now twice a month, right? I love it. I want to keep my feet in it. Like, I also want to make sure that I know my pet's doctor, because that's when you have your whole career in it. I'm like, I need to know who I'm trusting. But yeah, I was like, I had pride myself in my communication. I've really worked hard on myself. Like, I teach conflict management, and this one clinic I would just work at, and I would point out the flaws. Like, hey, there's a problem with the coupon system. Like, why? Like, can't we make this easier? And it was just labeling me very difficult to work with. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm really easy. All I am is just trying to make all of our lives easier, right? Yeah. But that's that bottom up. Like, once you see a flaw, you can't let it go. Pitbull that with a bone, you just don't let it go. And that is the thing that's got me labeled difficult or not easy to work with in my career, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. What would have changed for you if you had known about or at least understood your brain earlier? What do you think would have changed in your career?
I don't know, because part of me thinks I probably wouldn't have gone as far as I would. And I definitely would have put myself in a traumatic residency experience. But I mean, now that, for those of you who have seen the doctor shows, like I said, The Pit, in terms of how they treat residents, that's how it was. I mean, the abuse was ridiculous, and the treatment that would not fly in a regular workplace with what you can do with these residents. But in any case, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, to be honest, I probably would have not gotten married. Not that I regret this in any way, shape, or form, but I think I would have been afraid that I was going to pass it down to kids. Not that that's been, and I'm, like I said, I'm not diagnosing my family. My kids are phenomenal. They are, whether, I don't know if they have things or not, but if they do, they got the strengths, not the weaknesses. So good on them.
Is there a myth about neurodivergence or autism, ADHD, anything like that you would want to challenge?
I think people think we're stupid. I mean, I'm going to tell you the truth. I've had the R word used on me so many times growing up, it's not even funny. So, I mean, I was put in SPED. I was placed in SPED, special education, for many times. And listen, I'm going to give a shout out just in case my mom ever listens to one of these podcasts. She didn't know what we were. She was such a great mom in that she knew something was wrong with her kid. She had attunement. She went and got her master's in special learning handicap education. I don't know what it was. It was, I mean, whatever they had back then. It's called learning handicaps. And she had lots of kids at home, and she went and learned all about it. She didn't learn anything about, I don't think autism in girls existed. So I didn't really get a label, except for I did get some early testing done, and I knew I had some dyscalculia, dysgraphia stuff, but I tested so high, like in math and other stuff, that the good news is they didn't push me ahead. So, I mean, I'll be honest, I have tested genius level in one subject. So in theory, they could have put me 3 grades ahead, but they kept me where I was supposed to be, which was they should have done, because I was emotionally, honestly, more like 2 grades, 3 grades behind. I was a late grower, very immature, I was tall, but young looking, and I think that's also part of, autism as well, or perhaps neurodivergence, is that I think our bodies mature later. I noticed that as well. Like we're much younger. And we even are younger as adults. I don't know. It's weird.
That's definitely interesting. There's something to that. I have a friend of mine who's also a coach, a neurodivergent coach, and she calls it gaudy HD. So gifted, autistic,
Oh, I
ADHD.
like that. Yeah. That's
Gaudy
cute.
HD. I think it's cute. So like, and that's her clientele. Like she loves like gifted, talented, highly gifted, or TE, I think they call it, twice exceptional. Plus,
Oh, 2E. Yeah. Someone told me I was a 2E. That's kind of nice. I actually tossed that on my LinkedIn profile just for shits and giggles, just to see if anybody knew what it was. But yeah, I got that.
All right. So one of the questions I ask every single one of my guests is, this podcast is called Left Unattended.
Mhm.
What does left unattended mean to you?
Oh, you just described my entire childhood.
Mm,
Left unattended. I don't know. That's how kids were raised in the 80s. Let's have a bunch of kids. Oh, okay. Let's just leave the older one at home with all the little ones and we'll just go away for the weekend. Give them some pizza money. Bye. I'm like 13, 14, watching little kids, all days, nights. I didn't care. I got paid. So, and I didn't want to be around my parents anyway. So I thought it was great. But I would say I totally raised myself. So 100% raised myself. It's funny now. I love my parents. Don't get me wrong. It's all good. I'm sure they had their own struggles. Listen, being in the 80s was hard. And I don't know what neurospicy stuff they have. They haven't been diagnosed. And it's not my position to say what they have and what they don't have. But I'm sure they had their own version. If they had even a fraction of what I went through, it would have been, I've got AI and Grok and and there is medications if I needed to, take some type of medication for my ADHD. There are resources out there. They had none, and they probably didn't even know what was going on. And back in the 80s, anything came up, they just tossed a pill at you, like everyone got a pill.
it's so true. What do you think changes for someone when they finally are seen, right? Like, so instead of being left unattended, what do you think changes for someone when they're finally seen, and not just for what they produce, but for like how their brain actually works?
This is new for me because I really didn't come out. So I think I still feel like there's a lot of people who think I'm doing this for attention. And I've had a lot of people tell me that, like, I didn't even need to say anything. Like, are you just trying to get attention? Are you just trying to get like publicity? No, I'm telling people now because I'm awkward AF and people are going to see it. Unless I'm masking so heavy all day long, there's some days I just can't mask. So now it's fun. If I can't mask that day, I can just say, y'all, I'm having a bit of a neurodivergent day. Maybe I shouldn't go to this dinner. This isn't the best dinner for me. Or maybe sometimes I wear headphones at dinner. Not the big ones, the little ones. I'll wear AirPods, little things. But sometimes I just can't do stuff. And I'm just honest now. I don't care. I think it embarrasses my kids a little bit, but so far they've been like really awesome about it.
I had this like little minor breakdown when I had to get hearing aids because I had to go get my hearing checked and it was a whole big deal. And I had like this mini breakdown, but I found the silver lining for having hearing aids is that I can put my music on or whatever, and no one knows that I'm in my own little world.
No way. You can run Bluetooth through your hearing aids? That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And I throw on my Apple Music and drown out the noise around me.
Honestly, anywhere I go now, like, I don't care if I'm shopping, I'm at the grocery store, I'm at the gas station, whatever, my AirPods are always in, like, and they're always just very low. Sometimes they're just on noise canceling, but that way I can just ignore people if I don't want to talk to them. It's part of my social issues, and I act like I'm dancing. So I'm really just stimming. People don't know I'm not listening to music. But honestly, the AirPods have been like I own like so many AirPods. There's AirPods in my purse, AirPods in my travel bag, AirPods in my room. I have supported Apple big time.
You're going to have stock in Apple pretty soon.
Yep. Although, stupid me, I have an Android.
What?
I just can't use the Apple itself. I hate the phone. I like my Android because I know where everything is. But I use the AirPods.
We're an Apple household. All of us have Apple.
Everything else is Apple for me too, except for the phone. It makes no sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, well, I loved having you here as a guest on the podcast. I think what I'm going to take away from this conversation is that neurodivergence in the workplace is not just like a simple story of struggle and superpower. And I hate that trope sometimes, but I think it's both, right?
Right.
It's the misunderstanding and the brilliance that we bring to the workplace. It's the masking and the mastery. And it's the cost of being different and the power of finally understanding why different was never the same as broken. Mm-hmm. What I love to think about. And for so many listeners, I hope this conversation gives you permission to look back at their own career and ask, where was I failing and where was I actually unsupported? Where was I too much and where was the system too narrow? Where was I struggling and where was I building something new because the old model was never going to fit it? So thank you so much for being a guest here. I really appreciate having you. And I hope we continue this conversation again at another time.
Me too. And I look forward to, I'm going to go binge on your podcast. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Left Unattended. A huge thank you to my guest, Dr. Amanda Wilson, for sharing her stories. And of course, thank you to Dustin Bays for editing and making sure this podcast sounds as good as it feels. If today's conversation resonated with you, let's keep the conversation going. Join my newsletter for weekly insights on neuro-inclusive leadership. That's syn-apt.me/newsletter. Learn more about coaching with me at coaching.synap.me. That's syn-apt.me. Finally, if you enjoyed this episode, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It helps more people find the conversations and reminds the world that belonging isn't a luxury. It's a leadership strategy. Until then, I'm your host, Ron Sosa, and this has been Left Unattended. Until next time.